So the third step, and this will take a little bit of time, is I need to create my table that's going to do the calculations for me. All right, and you guys have possibly never seen this table before, so I am going to just kind of walk you through how to make the table and how to get the right symbols in there. So we have this math symbols page, so we're going to need this. All right, here are all of my chi-squared symbols that I'm going to need to go into this table. What I'm going to do is I'm going to screen clip them and paste them into the right spots. Let me show you how this works. So what I did is I took my first column, which probably looks like that for you right now, and I just stretched it out. Okay, I'm just going to make it bigger. And then over in this area here, I'll start in J. I'm going to put the things that I need in there. So how correlation coefficient, how chi-squared works is it compares the observed frequency to the expected frequency, and then it kind of does some calculations to the difference between them and totals all of those up for each one. All right, so in that first column, I need the observed frequency. All right, so there's my observed frequency symbol right there. So I'm going to window shift S. I'm going to carefully clip this so that it looks decent. All right, like that. And then I'm going to, it copied it for me. I'm going to go here and I'm going to paste it. Now this is going to float, and you have to be careful here because we got to make this look decent. All right, so I can adjust the size of this thing. I'm going to leave it fairly large, and I'm going to get it in the middle of that cell. This floats on top, so it's not going to move with the cells. All right, so I'm going to possibly have to readjust these as I go. I just want to see one thing. If I right-click on it. No, I thought I could maybe snap it to the grid, but I can't. So this is going to stay there. It's floating in the air. So if I was to move things, it's not going to move. All right, so remember that. The next column right here needs to be the expected frequency. So I'm going to go back here. I'm going to get the expected frequency. I strategically put these in order as they go in the table. So there's the expected frequency. Go back to my Excel. I'm going to paste that in there. I want it to be relatively the same size, so I'm going to kind of look at it and try to make it relatively the same size and get it in the middle there as much as I can. All right. So the next one is supposed to be these two things subtracted. So I have that right here. That's those two things subtracted. So F0 minus FE. Sorry, that's not F0, it's FO. Frequency observed, my frequency expected. So I'm going to click that, come back to Excel, I'm going to paste it in that cell. Now this is where, see how it's floating, is going to cause a bit of a problem. So I'm going to get it in there, and I'm going to adjust this column so that it fits in there and it's not overlapping any lines or anything. All right, you'll have to do adjusting on this. You can make it a little smaller, but I want those to be relatively the same size. This next column, which is definitely need to be bigger, so I'll make it bigger, is this number squared. So if you look at this right here, it's that number right there squared. So it's the same number, you just square it. And again, Excel's going to do all these calculations for me. All right, it's even bigger than I thought it was going to be. So let's put it right there, and let's stretch this out. Okay, so there's that one. And then the last column is you take the squared term and divide it by the expected term. All right, again, I'm going to make Excel do all of this for me. So I don't have to actually do any of the calculations, but this is just describing what the calculations are going to be in each column. So I'm going to come here, I'm going to make this a whole bunch bigger right now. Now you can see it's too tall. So I'm going to come back over here and make this taller. I have to readjust all of these, but we'll see. Okay. And take your time, make this look neat because your project does want to be, relatively neat when you're looking at it. So there's that, okay, all together. Now I'm going to make this thing, put the stuff in here. So this first column is the observed frequencies, which are in this table, the 10, the 11, the 16, the 13, the 27, and the 23. Now it doesn't care which one goes where, but if the 10 is right here, then the 11.1 has to go next to it. So I could type everything in here, all right, but I want this to update automatically if I make a change. So I'm going to tell this equals, and I'm just going to tell it to put the 10 in that spot. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to work across the row. So there's the first row, and then I'm going to go across the second row. So equals that one, equals that one, equals that one. Notice the totals do not go in there. just the 6 observed frequencies. Okay, and again, now if I went over here and I had to change this one to 19, it would automatically update 19 right here. And that's why I want to do it like that, so that I don't have to go back and retype all of these things if I did make a mistake. All right, but I have the table counting everything. So, I mean, but if I went over here and suddenly realized, oh, that one's a female, and change that to an F, it would recalculate everything in my tables because that one's now an F. All right, but it's not really an F, it's an M. So expected frequencies, I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna work across here. All right, I've got those ones red. I'm actually gonna change those to black in just a second here because I shouldn't have a bunch of colors in here if there's no reason. They were red because I was trying to show something in a video I made one time. Whoops. Oh, there's my expected frequencies, my observed frequencies. I'm going to put those back to black. Okay, expected frequencies and observed frequencies. All right, in here. So now for the rest of this stuff, I'm just going to tell it what to do. This column says I'm supposed to do FO minus FE. So I'm going to say equals FO minus FE M. Okay, and it subtracted those two. I'm going to click on this, get over in the corner here and get that little box, and I'm going to drag that down, and it will do all of those subtractions for me. Now you can notice these are not very different. Okay, it's because my numbers were randomly generated. All right, so they should be relatively the same, my expected frequency and my observed frequency, because my expected frequency is literally if it was random. Okay, and my observed frequency is what I got when I did my survey. Since my survey was randomly generated, they should be relatively the same. This next column says to square whatever's over here. All right, so I'm going to type equals this number to the second power. So shift 6 to get the caret, that's power, and then second power. And hit enter. All right, and it squares that number. These should all come out to be positive because when you square something, it becomes a positive. All right, then the next thing is, this says take the squared number and divide it by the expected frequency. So this column here, M, divided by K. So I'm going to hit equals this number divided by backslash expected frequency and hit enter. And then I'm going to drag that down so all of those numbers are there. Again, those are tiny numbers. I'm going to get a very, very small total here. So now here's where I have to be a little careful. All right, I want the total of all of these. That's where your chi-squared value comes from. All right, I'm going to go back to my math page. All right, and it tells me the formula for chi-squared right here. All right, I'm going to put that formula into my table down at the bottom. All right, to show that that's what my chi-squared is going to be. All right, be a little, see how this works here. Okay, so I'm going to put that over here. So I'm going to go back to my Excel. Now, it doesn't really matter where this goes. It doesn't really matter where this goes, but it's going to not fit real well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight all 6 of these right here, and I'm going to merge them together into one cell, okay? In your home menu, this thing right here, if you hold your mouse over it, is merge. I'm going to hit that. It'll make those into 6 cells. I don't even know if that's going to be big enough. So I'm actually going to do all of these cells right here. Do that many, because that way it should fit in there. So then I'm going to paste, and there's my floating thing right there. All right, I'm going to paste it. I'm going to put it right kind of here. And then what I'm going to do is next to it, I'm going to highlight the same number vertically of cells that I did over here. I'm going to merge those, okay? Because then what that's going to do is it's going to show that this number is that happening right there. All right, so I'm going to hit equals SUM. I'm going to put a parenthesis, and I'm going to have it add these together right here. All right, that's going to give me my chi-squared value. Now I'll put it down there at the bottom, but if you go over here to your menu, all right, you can see right here, this is centered at the bottom of the cell, middle of the cell, top of the cell. I'm going to put middle, so it puts it there. All right, so there's my chi-squared value right there. All right, so I've got my chi-squared value. In the next video, we'll come back and I'll show you how to actually organize all of this, get your critical value, and then compare your calculated value to your critical value and make your final statement.